know who it is. For today's recipe, we're going to make some absolutely orangey orange chicken. To get started, you're going to need 1 cup of chicken broth, onion. I prefer to use onion powder. Oh, this is ginger. Oops. Here we go. Onion powder. I prefer to use onion powder since it's just easier to use. No problem with that. 1/4 teaspoon of ginger. 1/2 cup of orange juice, preferably fresh squeezed, but if you can't find it, do what you can. 1/4 cup of soy sauce. I use reduced sodium because I'm trying to watch my blood pressure, and you should too. 1/3 a cup of white vinegar. 2 tablespoons of cold water. Oil for frying. I use avocado oil because it doesn't release a lot of harmful chemicals compared to other types of oils. This is also great for high heat cooking, and it's just overall healthier for you. So if you can find avocado oil, go ahead. If you use vegetable oil, no problem. And you're going to need 2 large eggs and cornstarch. This is very important. Don't use flour. Some white pepper. I know it's a lot of ingredients, but for a lot of flavor. You know, it's not even a question why I have this. And some granulated sugar. I'm going to use agave since it has a very neutral flavor to it. It's not going to overpower the flavor of the sauce. You could use honey, but the flavor may be too strong, so be careful of that. So for the marinade, I'm going to measure out 1/2 cup of orange juice. And if you have fresh oranges laying around your house, you could zest them and it'll add so much flavor and a little bit of texture. So that's my 1/2 cup of orange juice. Now it's time for my 1/3 cup of white vinegar. Got to be very careful with soy sauce because it can be very, very salty. My 1 cup of chicken broth. There we go. I'm going to add just a tad bit more orange juice. You don't have to do this. And now for my ginger. I know I gave you guys measurements. I lied. I'm just going to do this to taste. Onion powder. Now I want this seasoned well since this is going to be part of my marinade. White pepper is used a lot in Chinese cooking. If you can't find white pepper, if you don't have an Asian market or anything, you could just use regular black pepper. Now this pepper is much more potent than black pepper, so be cautious. And now I'm going to do my taste test. So the aim of adding in a sweetener is put in enough where it cuts the acidity. So I put probably less than a teaspoon of the agave in. This out. Wow. That's excellent. Has a little tang to it due to the vinegar. So this is about 2 teaspoons worth of taste. Taste test number 2. And I'm going to put just a little bit more. Now I'm going to cut up my chicken tender breasts, chicken tenders, chicken whatever. Bite-sized pieces, but not too small. You know, you don't want to be eating chicken bits. I would say these are about 3/4 of an inch thick, or between a 1/2 inch to a 3/4 of an inch thick. There we go. All right, we're all set. I'm gonna put this in a airtight glass container. Airtight so you can lock in those flavors. Just dump your chicken in. I'm gonna measure about 1/3 of the sauce for my marinade. And then the other 2/3 I'm gonna use to create the rest of the sauce. And I'll see you in 30 minutes. is done marinating. So I'm going to drain off this marinade and put my extra marinade in a saucepan with some cornstarch so I can start making the sauce. I'm going to put my marinade on a medium heat. While my chicken was marinating, I decided to make some rice to go with it. I wish I could tell you how to make rice. Rice is the bane of my cooking abilities. It always seems to boil over. It's either overcooked or undercooked. I just don't really have any luck with rice. I'm surprised today this didn't boil over and just make a huge mess on the stove. I would just recommend do whatever you got to do to make your rice the way that you want it, or just buy a rice cooker. So I know that wasn't really helpful, but we'll get to the rice video in the future, but not today. Not today. Over here I have a pan with avocado oil, which I'm going to heat up so I can fry my chicken bits. I'm going to put that on a 6. So what you're going to do is take the chicken. Here I have my 2 beaten eggs. Dip it in the egg wash. Give it a good mix. And this is also the point where you put in your 2 tablespoons of the water. I know when you add water into any recipe with like a deep fried food, it actually helps it get crispier. It's due to the water, blah, 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 chemistry, just joking. It's actually due to the water evaporating due to the heat, which causes whatever coating that's on top of the food that you're making to expand, therefore becoming crispy. Give this a toss. You don't know how much I'm freaking out right now behind this camera, getting this cornstarch everywhere. This is why I don't typically bake on this channel. If I do bake, it's usually things without flour or cornstarch. And you're going to repeat this process for all of your chicken. Make sure you get an even coating. I'm going to test the oil to see if it's hot. You could do that by taking a piece of food and laying it in the oil until you see bubbles. So the oil's hot. Your chicken might clump up a little bit, but that's fine. You can always it'll separate once everybody gets fried. And make sure you don't overcrowd or overfill the pan, because the oil will cool down too much and then you'll get greasy orange chicken or not fully cooked chicken. Choose your pick. And I noticed when I cook with avocado oil, it seems to, I don't want to say burn, but it seems to cook a lot cleaner as far as smell and taste. And while they're cooking, let's get back to the sauce. I measured out about 1 tablespoon of cornstarch and I put in just enough water so it can liquefy. This is called a slurry, and this is going to help my sauce thicken up. I don't want to put too much in at first because I do want to get a good sauce to chicken ratio in rice. So I'm going to add it in as needed. And it also makes sure that it doesn't clump up. The avocado oil doesn't give you a deep golden brown color. But don't worry, the chicken is fully cooked. Just make sure that you flip when ready. And since these are small pieces of chicken, it doesn't take a long time for them to cook all the way through. Why won't you flip? Flip. If you have a deep fryer at home, it should be a little bit easier. The one that I have is very, very small. I would be here for hours. I'm just going to put a little bit more oil in the pan. It's a little too shallow. And this is also done by eye. I want a little bit more coverage on the undersides of my pieces. Now my sauce has thickened up quite a bit. And when it cools down, it's going to thicken up a lot more. So as far as my cornstarch slurry, I'm going to put less than a quarter tablespoon or less than a half a tablespoon. And that would be it. Give that a good kiss of the whisk. I'm going to take my slotted spoon and take my first batch out so I can drain off the excess oil. And what you should hear is this. Nice and crispy. Time for my next batch. Okay. So this is about the thickness that I want. So I'm going to take it off the heat. And it should thicken up once it's nice and cool. My homemade orange chicken. You have the option of topping this off with some sesame seeds or light meat green onions. It just brings a whole new level of flavor. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to, like, subscribe, share, and complain. And always chase that yum.